Welcome to this explainer. Okay, let's just dive right into this. We breathe it in every single second of every single day, and we literally cannot live without it for more than what? A few minutes? Think about it. If you hold your breath right now, panic starts to set in almost immediately. Oxygen feels like the ultimate biological necessity, right? The absolute foundation of human life. We totally take it for granted. But what if this invisible gas isn't just the hero of our biological story? What if the reality of oxygen is actually much more volatile, much more complex, and frankly, a lot more dangerous than we ever imagined? So let's explore a reality that is going to fundamentally change how you think about every single breath you take. We've all been taught to think of oxygen as this purely magical, life-giving elixir. It's the stuff of fresh mountain air, right? Revitalization. But what if the very oxygen giving you life is also slowly damaging your cells? The truth is actually a massive biological paradox. Oxygen undeniably sustains us. It provides the immense fuel we need to function. But it absolutely has a dark side. If its processing gets out of control inside our bodies, it aggressively destroys our cellular machinery. It's a total double-edged sword that hasn't just been shaping life on Earth for billions of years, but is actually fighting a microscopic war inside your tissues right now. Section 1. The hidden two faces of oxygen. So you're probably pretty familiar with mitochondria. They're the famous powerhouses of our cells, essentially acting like microscopic biological nuclear reactors. Their main job is to take the oxygen we breathe and safely reduce it into water, which is a process that manufactures our body's energy currency, known as ATP. Now, just like a real-world nuclear reactor, it's a highly efficient process generating immense power, but it's not a perfectly sealed system. During this energy generation, a tiny fraction of electrons actually escape their normal, safe path. And when these rogue electrons react directly with oxygen, they create dangerous, highly reactive molecules called reactive oxygen species, or ROS. We're talking about things like superoxide and hydrogen peroxide. So your mitochondria are simultaneously your greatest energy producers and the main site of a constant toxic leak. Which brings us to a really crucial mechanism of cellular damage. When these leaked ROS molecules get out of hand, we experience what's known as oxidative stress. Think of oxidative stress like a kind of biological rusting happening inside your body. Just as oxygen and moisture cause a sturdy iron pipe to slowly rust, weaken, and degrade over time, excess ROS slowly degrades your internal structures. Now, our cells are incredibly smart. They have built-in antioxidant enzymes and complex repair systems designed specifically to handle this daily toxic leakage. But when the sheer volume of ROS exceeds our biological defense systems, this rusting causes severe structural damage to our essential proteins, our structural lipids, and even our DNA. It's basically a constant, lifelong tug of war inside you. Section 2. ROS. Poison or signal? Now, we're going to completely flip the script on how you view these reactive molecules. For decades, they were seen purely as the enemy, but the reality is they aren't just cellular villains. In fact, they're essential double agents. Let's contrast this dual nature. Because the danger or benefit of these molecules isn't just a simple matter of the total quantity floating around in your body. It highly depends on exactly where they're produced, how long they stick around, and at what specific concentration. On one hand, you have long-term excessive accumulation. That undeniably leads to the biological rusting we just talked about, severe cell damage, accelerated aging, and chronic disease. But on the other hand, short, localized creation of ROS actually acts as a vital life signal. For example, when a cell is exposed to a sudden stressor, a tiny temporary burst of ROS acts like an internal fire alarm. It literally tells the cell to wake up, turn on specific survival genes, and quickly adapt to the changing environment. To really bring this home, let's look at some critical biological functions that absolutely require ROS to happen. If you were somehow able to wipe out all the ROS in your body, your immune cells wouldn't even have the chemical weapons they use to fight off a simple common cold. You wouldn't be able to adapt to low oxygen environments at high altitudes. And if you love hitting the gym, well, the next time you're sore after a heavy workout, you should actually thank those reactive molecules. The ROS generated during intense physical stress is the exact signal your body needs to build new mitochondria, increase your natural antioxidant defenses, and grow stronger muscles. Completely destroying these ROS double agents wouldn't make you healthier. It would literally stop your body's ability to heal, defend itself, and improve. Crazy, right? Section 3. The real goal of antioxidants: balance. Enter the new biological paradigm, redox balance. This is the physiological state where the creation and the removal of ROS are perfectly harmonized. Think of redox balance like a high-stakes tightrope walk, or maybe a finely tuned biological thermostat. Modern medicine has realized that the goal isn't to carpet bomb all free radicals. Actually, taking massive unnecessary doses of antioxidant supplements can disrupt this delicate balance by turning off those good fire alarm signals we just talked about. The true goal here is precise control. We want to prevent the pathological oxidative stress, that biological rusting, while carefully maintaining those essential, short-lived physiological signals that keep us adapting, surviving, and thriving. And this delicate balance absolutely applies to oxygen itself. Too much oxygen is highly toxic. Life evolved for a very specific atmospheric concentration, roughly 21%, not an unlimited pure supply. Simply pumping pure oxygen into a patient isn't automatically healthier. A tragic historical example really perfectly illustrates this. Back in the mid-20th century, doctors routinely pumped highly concentrated, pure oxygen into the incubators of premature babies, genuinely believing it would help them thrive. Tragically, this caused an epidemic of blindness, known as retinopathy of prematurity, all because the medical field just didn't yet understand the highly toxic nature of excessive oxygen and the massive destructive ROS spikes it causes in developing tissues. Today, whether it's in neonatal care, intensive care units, or diving medicine, professionals have to incredibly carefully balance the dangers of oxygen deficiency with the very real, very severe risks of overexposure.
Section 4. Old survival methods in our bodies.
So, the really crucial point here is that despite being a species entirely, fundamentally dependent on breathing oxygen, parts of our very own bodies will completely abandon it when push comes to shove. Let's systematically walk through some of these. Take red blood cells first. These are the very vehicles that transport oxygen through your veins, yet they don't even have mitochondria. Think of a red blood cell like a pizza delivery driver who is biologically locked out of eating the pizza they're delivering. They rely entirely on anaerobic respiration, meaning they operate completely without oxygen, so they don't greedily consume their precious cargo before it reaches your brain or organs. Then, think about your intensely exercising muscles. When they need ATP instantly and your oxygen delivery simply can't keep up, they quickly revert to lactic acid fermentation just to keep you moving. And what about those activated immune cells fighting off bacteria? They often have to operate in inflamed, damaged tissue sites where oxygen is severely depleted, so they rapidly ramp up glycolysis to get the job done. You see, these aren't just biological quirks. These are billion-year-old anaerobic survival tactics functioning flawlessly inside you right now.
Section 5. The great byproduct created by evolution.
This brings us to the grand finale, the awe-inspiring, really turbulent true history of life and oxygen on this planet. It's a timeline that brilliantly illustrates how we got here. Step 1. Billions of years ago, cyanobacteria started photosynthesizing and accidentally released oxygen into the atmosphere as a highly toxic byproduct. Step 2. Early anaerobic organisms faced a massive, catastrophic survival crisis. In fact, this period is known by scientists as the Great Oxidation Event, and it was arguably the very first mass extinction on Earth. Oxygen was essentially the original weapon of mass destruction for early life. But then, step 3, life did what life beautifully does. It evolved. It slowly learned to tolerate this highly toxic reactive gas. And finally, in step 4, complex life went a monumental step further. It integrated those ancient mitochondria to actively exploit this dangerous environmental pollutant, literally turning a deadly poison into a high-yield energy source. I want to leave you with this really powerful thought. Oxygen was not a planned goal of life, but a byproduct utilized by evolution. That completely shatters the comforting myth that oxygen was some magical, peaceful element designed specifically and perfectly for our existence. It just wasn't. It was an aggressive environmental pollutant. But evolution, in its infinite resourcefulness and patience, took the greatest poison on early Earth and transformed it into the primary fuel for complex human life. It is absolutely the ultimate story of biological adaptation. Which brings us to our final question today. If oxygen, the very breath of life, the gas we literally cannot survive a few minutes without, was originally just a toxic byproduct that our ancestors learned to exploit, how might life brilliantly adapt to the toxic environments of the future? Like, what current environmental poisons might eventually become the biological foundation for the next massive leap in evolutionary biology? It is a wild, paradigm-shifting thought to ponder. Thank you so much for joining me in this explainer today, and keep questioning the fascinating science behind the world around you.